Hey there, welcome to the Her Business Podcast. I'm Suzi Dafnis, I'm your host, and I'm the CEO at Her Business. And I want to start this episode by asking you a question. When was the last time you had a real conversation with an actual customer or client? Not a survey you sent out, not a support ticket you responded to, and not a quick email exchange or while you were delivering a product or service, but actually a conversation where you were there to listen without an agenda to truly understand what's going on in their world. If it's been a while, you are not alone. It's something the majority of established business owners, we forget to do that over time, and it actually ends up costing us. And sometimes we hit a plateau in business, or business starts to drift off course, and we can't identify the source of what's happened, why things different. And so here's the thing, you might not need to stress about finding a new marketing strategy or doing something differently. You might just need to be listening to your customers more. This is a great lesson for all of us. Because what happens as founders is we stop being in direct contact with clients as we grow. So while in the beginning we were the go-to person, eventually our team members are taking care of our clients and we don't have those conversations. So our decisions come from watching competitors or what others are doing or doing what we've always done. And we can be flying a little bit blind. But my guest today has built a multi-million-dollar software business, and she credits her success to one foundational habit. And that is structured, ongoing, and empathetic listening to her customers. Michele Hansen is a tech entrepreneur. She's the author of Deploy Empathy, a book I highly recommend you get a copy of. And she's the CEO of tech company Geocodio. And she's about to give us a masterclass in staying connected and in tune with the people we actually serve. Because when it comes to leading your business, listening is not a soft skill. It is a structural discipline, you'll hear her say. It's a foundation. And so much becomes possible when you build it into your business operations. So let's welcome Michele Hansen. Hey, Michele, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Suzi.
I'm very excited to have this conversation. I have been reading your book, listening to it actually, but I've also got the printed version. And we're going to dive a little bit into the key messages there. But I'm fascinated by your business and having your voice contribute to this conversation about leadership and leading differently. So let's talk a little bit about Geocodio, your business. You've bootstrapped it. Going from starting out to a multi-million-dollar business without outside funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And when you think about strong foundations, what did you focus on in your business to get it to this stage that some founders tend to overlook?
One of the most important things for us was customer validation, which you probably won't be surprised to hear given the theme of my book, which is understanding your customers. But I think something that was really important for us from the beginning was not being overly set on one idea and being open to different understandings of how people might need what we're trying to offer and being flexible with that and being really, really open to feedback and taking feedback from pretty much every direction. But then crucially sort of filtering that through to see, okay, what are we able to deliver for people,
Mm.
given our skills and talents and abilities, and what aren't competitors offering, and where can we fill a hole for people, but not really having one, very specific idea of what the product was or who the customer was. I think has been a really strong part of our foundation because it has led us to continually stay connected to who the customer is and
Mm.
how we can serve them. And instead of being focused on competitors, we are focused on our customers.
I love everything that you're saying there. Firstly, you listened, which is the whole point of your book, Deploy Empathy, but you didn't just do it once. You talk about ongoing paying attention to what the customer needs. And so often I see we get a good idea for our business, we go out there, we put it to market, and then we're like, oh, it's not working the way I thought. But we hadn't taken the time to build that foundation of really, really understanding what the customer needs and being flexible, as you said. And for many people, foundations, they might hear that and think, oh, to have a strong foundation, I need to have my systems and procedures and my SOPs. But you, and you just mentioned it, talk about evidence and customer insights. Tell us, why is structured listening actually a foundational discipline, not just something tactical that you might do now and then?
Yeah. So one of the frameworks that I use to give those conversation structures called jobs to be done. And this is the idea that people hire products to get a job done, whether that's you and me going to the store to buy shampoo or a business buying geospatial software. Um, and this gives the conversation some structure because you know what you're looking for. What have they tried before? What is it they are looking to do overall? What are the different things that they have tried? Why haven't those things worked, or why have they worked? Where are they spending a lot of manual time?
Mm.
And these conversations can be done right when someone purchases a product, but also when they haven't even bought your product yet, or if they've been using it for a very long time. And in my business, these are conversations that we have with our customers throughout their life cycle with us, whether they haven't used one of our products, or they've recently started using it, or
Mm.
they've been a customer for 5 or 10 years. And of course, you need to adapt them slightly, which is why in my book I have different scripts for different situations.
Mm.
But making that a part of your regular processes is something that's been very important to us. I personally find that if it's been, if I find, it's been more than 2 weeks and I haven't had a conversation with a customer, or a prospect, that's feels really weird. I feel
Really?
almost sort of like uncomfortable in my skin, and it's like, what, I don't feel like myself, right? Because, those conversations with customers are my fuel. And, even at this point, even when we're, doing the work up front to understand what is it people need, and, is what we're delivering, solving that for them. I still have situations where we launch things and we thought we had all this excitement, and then it kind of feels like it launches to crickets, right? And so then we go back into the research and we're like, okay, what do we miss here? What do we need to shape? We need to talk to people again. I think something that my co-founder and I often say to each other when we're both tossing back ideas back and forth, and we're like, well, I think it should be this, I think it's like that. Well, maybe this is going on. We're like, you know what? Pause. If we're going back
Mm.
and forth this much, we need to stop and we need to talk to people. We don't have enough information. And so I think we've made it a habit in our business to regularly go out and talk to the people we are serving.
That's so interesting that you do it that regularly, and it's obviously part of what you do. And as you said, you very generously provide scripts to make it easier for the rest of us who might feel a little daunted by the idea of having these regular conversations. One of the things that I've noticed for clients who've been with me for a number of years, just like they would be with your software, they, they're a long time, they change, their circumstances change, their needs change, who they are change. In my instance, they're women who maybe when they joined us to get some business training, they had school-age children. Now they're empty nesters. Now they're in their 50s. Now they're wanting different things for their lives. So I think that continually going back, not only to existing customers, but like you said, just to sort of have our finger on the pulse is so powerful. Because I often see, and I kind of hinted at this before, is I see business owners making decisions from what competition is doing, or a gut feeling without any backing, or a sense of urgency, or just the noise in the marketplace. How do you personally separate the signal from the noise when deciding what you're going to build or change or stop? Is it whatever customers are saying, or are there other elements?
There's so much more to it than what customers are saying. There is, of course, there is the potential it has for you and your business. Um, and if you think about it from a revenue perspective, right, that's not only the upside potential of something, but also the downside potential, right? Because I think when you've been running a business for a long time, like myself, or some of those women you mentioned, um, new decisions, they have a risk of threatening what you're already doing, right? And we're as much maintaining and trying to keep at the current revenue level as we are trying to grow. And so the first thing is looking at what is the revenue potential of something, either upside or downside. The second one is looking at the competitive advantage. And this is competitive differentiation in a way that customers care about, right? Because there is a difference between someone is willing to pay for something and someone is willing to pay you specifically for something.
Mm. Mm.
And so trying to look at what is already out there on the market. Do we think we can do something better? But also, are people going to be willing to pay us for that? And how much differentiation is it going to give us in a way that they care about? And the last one is, as a software business, I think about it as the engineering lift, but really it's sort of the operational lift of what is it going to take for us to create and maintain this going forward. And I basically have a scoring system that I use,
Mm.
where those first two are a positive, and then the last one is a negative because it takes a cost to create something. There is a cost to maintain something, and we always have to take that into account when looking at something, even if it's a very exciting opportunity with lots of revenue potential, and there seems to be a hole in the market. And thinking about what our own skills are really, and are we able to deliver that?
And maintain it, as you said. One of the things that you've mentioned, and I know is evident from your book, is that you have done thousands of these interviews. um, what would you say? And I really want women to adopt this. I think it's an underused, like really understanding your ideal client and what they need, I think is the key to differentiating yourself, to really creating a sustainable business, to staying relevant, so many things that you talk about. What do you think the real cost is when founders stop listening or assume, well, we know what our market wants?
I think there's a huge cost to that. Something I have learned is, and it's very similar to being a parent, is that you are constantly humbled as a business owner, constantly humbled in what you don't know. And the I think the key to that is being excited by what you don't know. I think, sometimes, especially the more successful we get, the more risk averse we get, the more afraid we are that, it could all
Mm.
go away tomorrow. And I don't think that fear ever really goes away, especially for women. Um, but we have to keep listening to our customers and to our team, as well as a source of new ideas, as a reminder of why we do what we do, and who we do it for. But
Mm.
disconnection from your customers poses a very big threat to your business, because you could get out of touch with the market, but also out of touch with your team. I've seen in organizations that, where it's where the ideas are only coming from the top, and there is the hippo problem, or as people say, the highest paid person's opinion is the one
I
that
have
rules.
not heard that before. That's great.
Yeah. um, and in those organizations where, be well intentioned, but their information they're working with might be out of date, or it might be
Mm.
only a trickle that they're getting through, reporting from other people. They're not really, personally connected with the customer. That also creates disconnection with the team, because if they are seeing different things on the ground that customers need and how the products are resonating, and that might differ from the founders, and these might all be good things, right? Everybody might have good
Mm.
ideas about what customers need, and everyone has good intentions, but if there's a disconnect there, right? Like, that can create the sense from the team that leadership isn't connected with the customer, and might
Mm.
frustrate them when they're pitching ideas or trying to understand priorities, and executing on their tasks. And so it's very important for the customer um, relationship, between the company, and the team, and the customers, um, that the founder is involved. But of course, there's a million things on your plate. You can't be doing everything. But at least just to be sitting in there with your team when they're doing a sales call, or sitting
Mm.
in, when there's a new client, just even if it's just once a month, just being in there with them, with the customer, is so important for not only your own ongoing understanding, of the vision of the company, and what it is you're doing, but also to stay connected to your team, and how they
Mm.
view what it is you're solving.
That's a fascinating angle. I know I'm always going on to my team about, being more client centric, whether it's how someone experiences a landing page that we create or how we respond to a request. And as the founder, and I have a small team, I would love for you to go back to when you were growing this hugely successful business and it was still asking a lot of you and a lot of decisions were coming back to you. What structures do you feel reduce dependency on you without losing closeness to the customer?
It's a funny question because I would say I'm still actively struggling with this.
Right.
You might think having done this for 12 years that I've got everything dialed in and everything is perfect, and that is absolutely not the case. Continually, I find myself, um, saying, we need to find ways to make things better. We need to find ways to be more efficient and really step back and look at the systems level view of what we're doing here. Something I find myself saying in the last few months is that I am not an airport. And what I mean by
I
that
was
is sometimes it felt like every flight was going through me, right? And it was like, I don't have to be involved in every single decision. And we need more direct flights between people in the company, right? And so,
Mm,
where can I pull myself back if I, in a sort of a strange way, look at myself like an airline, and continually being better at delegating. I think,
mm,
I mean, it is something I struggle with, and I think, quite frankly, as I think everybody watching this is probably in the same category, which is hyper confident women, right? We are used to running businesses, running families, like keeping our lives together, balancing it at all, which anyone who does that knows there is no balance between it.
right.
And very often that's sort of a painful reminder of, you know what, I don't need to be involved in this. And I think having an open dialogue with my team, being like, hey, am I being too involved here? Like, am I too in the weeds? Like, I need to be able to pull back. For me personally, I think we joke that I'm CEO and editor in chief, and it's like, you know what, maybe I need to pull back that editor in chief bit and delegate
Mhm.
that out. Maybe I don't have to be involved, even if I enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
And I think the thing I remind myself of, and I think about this for everybody on my team, is what is the highest value use of my time? What is
Mm.
the thing that only I can uniquely bring to this business? And then thinking about that with each one of my team members. And so, in terms of structure, not only the people who are directly reporting to me, but also the rest of my team, I have regular check ins with them at least once a quarter where I ask them, what are skills that you're using right now? Are those things you want to be using? Are there skills and talents you have that you haven't been able to bring to the table yet? And kind of thinking as the company like a chessboard. And I have
Mm.
all of my pieces, right? And if you play chess, you know that you can have your queen sweep diagonally across the board into a situation, but you can also have your bishop do that. And so, am I really using each piece, myself included, to
Mm.
the fullest extent of its talents, and not having the queen do work that a pawn or a rook could be doing instead?
I love that metaphor. Is a metaphor or analogy, whatever it is. I love it because I think we can relate. And thank you for being transparent about that. Because similarly, I've grown multiple seven-figure businesses. I still end up often being, the traffic controller and the person in the airport. All flights come through here. So I think it's an ongoing struggle for a lot of us. But we can keep creating structures in our business, which is a part of what this conversation is about. You use the word empathy on the cover of your book, Deploying Empathy. I love that word. Um, Empathy can sound kind of soft, and yet, in your work, it's something that's very, very practical and really yields results. How does operationalizing, if you like, empathy make our businesses more resilient, more profitable, more scalable, all those things that we're looking for?
You're right. Empathy often does sound soft, and but really, it's so powerful when you have that running through the organization. Empathy is fundamentally about understanding other people's context and accepting it as valid, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. And it often gets sort of muddled up with compassion or kindness or niceness. And people think it means being nice to people or doing whatever your clients want you to do. That's not what it is. It's understanding what other people might want or need, um, and accepting that, right? But then also at the same time, accepting that your own business, your team, you have your own context as well.
Mm.
Something I talk a lot about in the book is empathy, but also having boundaries with that. And I mentioned before how we have gotten feedback from hundreds of thousands of people over the years. If we had taken feedback from every single one of those people, we would be confused. We would not have
Mm.
a clear sense of who it is we're serving and why. And so you have to apply those boundaries in terms of what is it we are able to solve and what is relevant out of what we are hearing from someone. Um,
Mm.
and it's really about understanding motives and what drives people. And and again, this is something that I use with my team to try to understand what is driving them to be here every day. What is driving them to show up for us and for our customers, and for this work. Um, and and looking at people's motives. And so while it does come across as a soft topic or sometimes get confused with niceness, that's really not what it's about. And I think that, using it throughout the business, whether it is to
Mm.
understand why, as you said, someone might be struggling with a landing page, right? What is the context this person is going through? Could it be that they have some accessibility needs that we're not supporting?
Mm.
Could it be that they're, as they're thinking about signing up and improving their business, is it also that they've got, a kid who's hanging off of them demanding a snack, and they've got other demands on them, and their phone is starting to ring, right? There's so many other things going on in
Mm.
their context. And that is valid, even if when we designed that landing page, we assumed that they were sitting at their laptop and it was calm and they had a cup of tea
Yes.
and they were only focused on doing the task we have in front of them, right? And so understanding that context helps us build businesses that are more resilient because we are understanding the context that our customers are in and meeting them where they are. And meeting people where they are is so powerful, not assuming maybe a level of experience or understanding, not assuming that they are completely focused on what it is we are doing. Um, this I find is the thing that allows us to create things that are simple and delightful and make life easier for people. And I think that's for me running a business, that's a big part of why I
Mm.
do what I do is to improve other people's lives and make one tiny part of their day easier. And I can't do that unless I understand the entire context that they are in, and how we might serve that.
What a gift that way of thinking is, Michelle. Just I just love it. I just love it. Um, it's just so human and allowing, and I could so see that woman with the child hanging off her with a, cold cup of coffee that she's been trying to get to all day, trying to read my landing page on her mobile phone. And I'm thinking, how easy have I made it for her? And everyone has our own version of that. So empathy, empathy, empathy. I want to ask a question, you in your CEO hat as the business owner. So for the woman who's listening, who's built a great business, she's feeling stretched thin. What's the foundational habit or rhythm that you have installed that you recommend that she install to make it easier to make better decisions and to do less firefighting?
Again, this is something that I still struggle with.
Mm.
12 years in, business like ours, there's still firefighting. There
Yeah.
and I recognize for people who might be earlier on and doing a lot of firefighting, that may not be the most motivating thing to hear, that you will still be dealing with firefighting 12 years on. I will say it is much less frequent than it used to be. The number of times we're woken up in the middle of the night because servers are down is, less than once a year at this point. Partly due to resiliency, but also, in terms of team, and whatnot. But there are situations where I'm firefighting, and it really comes back to that chessboard. Is this the
Mm.
highest value use of my time? And is this what I need to be doing? And also, is this where I'm getting energy from? And where are other people getting
Mm.
energy? And again, using that empathy towards yourself and also towards your organization, right? Seeing, the impact of things. and where people can plug in, but also not just thinking about each individual player and, thinking about, okay, I'm the queen and I really need to stop sweeping across the board, right? But also looking at that entire board and seeing, okay, what systems have I built that are not
Mm.
working here, right? And again, being humbled over and over and over again, that I built this process and it's not working, or it could be better. And looking at it again and saying, okay, given the context where we are right now, right? Maybe when I built this process, we were at a different stage 2 or 3 years ago, right? This might have worked then, and it might have worked
Mm.
for us for a few years, but now it's not working. And how do I change this? Talking to other founders is so powerful for that. For just, here's my chessboard right now, right? Here's what we're doing. Here's
Mm.
the situation we're facing. Um, Having other founders who approach you with empathy, who can understand your situation. Here's my goals. Here's what I've built. Um, and here's where I want to be, but here's where I am now. That has been, I mean, the most transformative experience for me as a founder is having other founders to talk
Mm.
to who I know are going to approach the problem that I'm having with empathy. And a crucial part of that empathy is without judgment, right? I said
Yeah.
that it's about understanding someone's context and accepting it as valid, regardless of whether you agree with it or not. And so having founder friends who approach you that way, is so powerful because you can go there vulnerably and say, I've been firefighting lately. I'm stretched thin, and I don't know what I can do here. I feel like I've exhausted, my capabilities here, and I'm just not sure what to do. I had that conversation with a founder friend a month ago. And,
Mm.
being able to go to someone and say, I'm in this situation and I don't know what to do. And it was so bad that I was crying on Friday afternoon at the end of the day, right? That actually happened. I actually had that conversation with someone.
Mm.
And so having those people you can go to, you can say, look, I've looked at the system, I've looked at the processes I made. Where am I going wrong here?
Mm.
And having that support is so crucial.
Absolutely, and having that objective point of view with heart, because they care enough to be there for you, but they're not so invested that they want it to be a particular way. So powerful. I was picturing the game board as you're talking about it, and thinking how so often we're on the board, so we can't see the whole game, and how important it is for us to know that we're the queen, but also be able to have a picture on the board, and that takes pause, reflection, putting ourselves, not doing the work of the pawn and just staying in our sovereignty, if you like, to be able to see that. I just had a very clear visual there. Um, at her business, one of our taglines is your business, your rules. You are in such an interesting industry. I'd love to know how you've designed your business in a way that reflects your rules and possibly that of your partner as well, rather than bowing to industry pressure or what might be normal for your business.
Yeah. So my business, for context, we're in the geographic data space. So to give you a very brief overview of us, a computer does not understand an address. It only understands coordinates. And so what we do is convert an address into coordinates and coordinates into addresses so that humans can understand them. And then those coordinates are often doorways to pieces of information. So, for example, if you wanted to know the political districts for an area or the time zone or statistical data, you need to have the coordinates first. And so, what we save people from is having to hit multiple services to get maybe that one piece of information that they care about, which might be, say, the average household income of that area or who the political representative is so they can write to them about issues they care about. And I mentioned when we launched and throughout the years, we have gotten feedback from so many people asking, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you support um, this use case? Do you support Australia? We actually don't right now, but we'll be launching there later this year.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
yeah, um, one of and throughout that, as we look into all of these different things, we've developed what our core values are. and that are very different than other people in the industry. Sorry. And one of those things is that we decided very early on that we would never sell data about individual people. So I mentioned that we're doing
Mm.
geographic data. There are a lot of data enrichment companies that make good money, selling information about individual people, for credit purposes or insurance
Yeah.
purposes or whatever that is. And we decided early on that we would never do that. We also decided that we would never support use cases involving basically sending out junk mail and spamming people. So if people come to us and they say, "Give me every address within this postal code," we decided that we are not going to support that use case. And because that's just, we don't enjoy receiving it and we didn't want to support that. And,
Mm.
that's a valid business. There are plenty of businesses out there doing that. People can go elsewhere and we're happy to refer people. Um, and those also, those kinds of decisions, I think they steer us as well, right? That determines, oh, which data sources can we use? And, how do we present the service and which customers are we going after? Because we don't want to go after a customer who wants data on individual people only to disappoint them with,
Mm.
general statistical data, right? So it informs a lot of decisions, but those are the kinds of things that, um, if we had, um, I think, if we had big investors behind us who are looking for this to be, a home run, right? That's the kind of situation we would end up being in because there's a lot of money to be made from that. And we decided we weren't going to make money from that. And so how do we make money
Mm.
in a different way? And I think fundamentally about, industry pressure and kind of how people think about startups and businesses, right? Like geocoding and data enrichment is never going to be the sexy thing Silicon Valley is talking about. And we are okay with that. That is not what we want. Um, we don't need to be in the headlines. We don't need to have an 1,000-person company. We are happy with having a business that we feel good about, that
Mm.
serves a customer that we felt was underserved, that we were ourselves in many ways, and doing so in a way that aligns with our values.
Mm. And gives you the business and the life that you want to live in the way that you want to live it. It's so powerful. I want to thank you so much for this conversation on leadership. Um, Before I hold the book up again, I'm going to ask if there's anything you'd like to leave us with.
Running a business is hard. Running a business as a woman is harder, and running it as a mother is, I mean, one of the hardest things. And I would just say to anyone who is watching this and is in those situations, you got this. It's going to be hard. Finding balance is difficult, and speaking as a gymnast, balance is never consistent, right? On one moment you
Mm.
might be solid on your feet, and the next on something that you thought was a really easy skill,
Mm.
toppling over. And but at least the thing about gymnastics is that you always have mats below you. And I hope that as you are building your business, you have those mats below you in terms of other founders who are there to support you and help you get back up again and find your balance and bring what it is that you do, to the world in the best way possible.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being part of this conversation. The book is Deploy Empathy, a practical guide to interviewing customers. But that's just been one part of this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your personal insights on leadership.
Thank you so much for having me.
I loved talking with Michelle, and she touched on something that's so relevant to us as business owners. As leaders in our business, we make decisions all day long. Decisions about the business or the team or our offer or marketing or our direction. And most of us believe that we're making those decisions well because we're experienced and because we care and because we've been doing this forever, and so we trust our instincts. But Michelle really challenged that, didn't she? Because if the information that we're working on is outdated or misaligned, and our understanding of our customer is based on who they were 2 years ago, then even the most confident, experienced leader is working with a huge blind spot. And creating a system to stay genuinely connected to the reality of the people you serve is one of the essential foundations to achieving a business that doesn't rely so heavily on you. And so if you want to take a step away for a few weeks and you know your team and systems can handle everything, then knowing your customers is essential, because that's the base that holds up all your messaging that people are going to do while you're away, all the marketing, all the campaigns, all the offers, all the customer service. It's strategic to make this part of what you do, because knowing your customer means you know what to build, what to stop working on, what to prioritize, what to put your energy into, what to put your team's energy into. And it's the basis of how you're going to make your decisions and create leverage in your business. Now, if you'd like to check out Michelle's book, which is Deploy Empathy, it's linked to on our show notes page. I cannot recommend it enough. It is going to give you the same framework as well as examples of what to do in those interviews. And you can order the book wherever good books are sold, but I'll give you the links to other places that you can find Michele as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone you love or someone you like or someone you think who would find this useful. And you can reach out to us and let us know that you enjoyed the episode too. You can find us over on Instagram at Her Business. Now, if you are new to the show, welcome, and please subscribe or follow wherever you're listening. If you're a regular listener, thank you so much for being here. If you're listening, I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you head on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a rating or review? Or if you don't want to do it in a public place, send us a message. We love to hear what you're enjoying, what you want more of, what we're not covering that you really want to hear about. We'd love to hear from you. I'll see you next week right here on the Her Business Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye for now.